Hey guys, and welcome back to Mad About Skin. In today's video, we're talking the skincare brand Paula's Choice. It is exactly 1 year to the day that the brand was taken over by Unilever, a big multinational corporation. 12 months ago, a lot of the core devotees of the brand worried about what this would actually mean in terms of price, ethics, and of course, product and formulation. Well, 12 months has lapsed, and we kind of know a lot more now. Unfortunately, it's been a pretty difficult year for Paula's Choice. They've seen a slowdown in their sales, a lack of interest in terms of the online community and the amount of free publicity that they were getting. Prices have increased, and a lot of people that used to be firm devotees of this brand have started calling them out for going back on some of their core values. What does all this mean for the brand? Let's take a deeper look. So sit back, relax, let's talk all things Paula's Choice. Now, before we get into this video, I would love to know what your own hot take is when it comes to Paula's Choice. Are you still as big a fan of the brand as you were, say, 5 years ago, or has your opinion evolved and changed? Sound off in the comments section below. Whatever your thoughts on Paula's Choice, if you like me, you like the channel, and you love and appreciate the content we create here on Mad About Skin, hopefully you'll also want to reach down and give this video a thumbs up and a like. One thing that struck me when I was going through the video analytics here on the channel is that only 35% of the people that watch the content on Mad About Skin are actually subscribed. And I'm here to say, if you're part of that 65% that aren't, why not join our fabulous Mad About Skin family? All you need to do is reach down and click that subscribe button, and for that you'll get daily uploads. I respond to as many comments as possible. We have our weekly live stream, and I think I speak for everyone. I say we would love to have you as a core part of our Mad About Skin family. But with all that being said, shall we cut that waffle and delve straight on in? And let's start with my own thoughts and feelings when it comes to Paula's Choice. Let's get that out of the way first. Now, I've never been a huge user and advocate of Paula's Choice. I think the formulations are great, particularly their original product range. But when I started to get into skincare more seriously, the prices had already started to increase, and I looked at a lot of the Paula's Choice products and thought, this is just a bit more than I personally was willing to pay when it came to my own skincare products. Of course, everyone has a different budget, and different products will appeal differently to different segments. So we need to bear that in mind, but I think that's one of the main reasons that maybe I haven't been as big an advocate for Paula's Choice as some other content creators here on YouTube. I would definitely credit Paula, who's the founder of the brand, for really leading the way. She was an innovator. She was one of the first people that said, actually, some higher potency actives such as retinoids and some alpha hydroxy acids actually have a core part to play in our skincare routine, and developed products that were available over the counter before a lot of other brands had cottoned on. I think had Paula and the Paula's Choice brand not existed, I think the skincare world would look vastly different today than it currently does. And we really need to, I think, applaud where applause is due. And that's definitely the case in terms of the innovation with Paula's Choice. I haven't been massively impressed with the brand in the last year, and I'm going to come on to that later in the video, which is why I kind of wanted to sit down and share with you my thoughts, feelings, opinions. But it's always worth remembering they are just my opinions, and you guys might totally disagree, which is what the comment section is there for down below. So let's actually talk about what's happened in the last 12 months and kind of what impact that's had on the brand. Well, let's first talk about price increases. There has been an average, when you average it out globally, increase in the price of the Paula's Choice skincare range of 15%. That's pretty significant, and it's not even across the globe. They've tended to keep their price rises lower in the US market, but are much higher in Canada, the UK, the rest of Europe, and Australia. I think this, on top of some of the price increases that have happened over the last 5 years, has led a lot of people to say, are these products actually worth it? Paula's Choice has historically increased the price of all their products once every single year by around 3 or 4%. Because there's a cost of living crisis going on globally at the moment, I think we're much more attuned to our individual budgets. Brand could get away with a 3% increase, say 4 years ago, and a lot of people might not notice. A 15% increase when we're all looking at our budgetary pressures really does hit home, which I think has led a lot of people to say, I'm not sure that these brands are actually within my budget anymore. I'll look for some drugstore options. I think this is probably one of the primary reasons for that slowdown in sales that the brand is experiencing. And I think that's a shame. I do totally get that there's a lot of inflation in the market at the moment, and there's only a limit to how much brands can actually absorb before they have to push those extra costs onto us, the consumer. I'm not blind to that, but I think the problem with Paula's Choice is, take for example The Ordinary. They increased the range of The Ordinary products by around 15 or 20% this year, but they could go out and say this is the first price increase in 5 years, and people thought, yeah, do you know what? A little bit of a price increase to actually take account of inflationary pressures isn't that bad. Paula's Choice can't say that because they've been price gouging year on year on year on year. And so this just looks like another big increase on top of the ones that we've already put up with as consumers. I also don't think the brand really did themselves any favours with some of their newer launches. So they launched a lip balm which was priced at $32. Ridiculously expensive for a lip balm. No one should be paying that for a lip balm. But I think this got a lot of people thinking, actually, this is now becoming much more of a cash grab than it is actually a really well formulated and well priced skincare brand. And this had a lot of people feeling a little bit cold. This, alongside that 15% price increase, I think just compounded people's perceptions of this now being a relatively high price point skincare brand, people looking elsewhere for their needs. Now, the second thing that's happened in the last 12 months, which again might be feeding into that slowdown in sales, is a lack of online publicity. So if you think back to like 3 years ago, Paula's Choice was like the darling of any skincare influencer here on YouTube, Instagram, over on Reddit. People were fangirling about their products. However, that's really markedly slowed down in the last 12 months. I don't know whether that's linked to the price point or people just moving on to newer brands. I saw quite a startling statistic from one of the online marketing agencies, which said they'd done a review of all the different mid-priced brands to work out what free exposure they were getting from content creators and influencers and put a value to that based on what that brand would have had to pay in the standard advertising market to get the same exposure. This year, they averaged out that Paula's Choice got the equivalent of around $2 million worth of free advertising from influencers. A lot of people might think, actually, that's quite good. But that's significantly lower than what they were getting 2 or 3 years ago. If you compare and contrast that to Sunday Riley, which is a brand that I think has a similar price point, appeals to a similar demographic, they got $36 million worth of free exposure. So you can really see how I think the market has shifted, with people paying less attention to Paula's Choice and moving on to other brands. Now, do I think Paula's Choice is worse than Sunday Riley? Absolutely not, but I think this is something that, again, has just kind of driven that slowdown in sales. A lot of this could be attributed to the brand themselves. They never really did PR particularly, which, you know, originally I thought that was to their credit, kind of let the products just speak for themselves. But of course, when you become an established brand, which Paula's Choice now is, you need to drive that narrative. And when you come with a particularly high price point, you know, not doing PR, I think, means a lot of influencers kind of just pass you by. This should never be the case. I buy most of the products that you see here on Mad About Skin with my own hard-earned coin. I don't rely on PR, but that's not the case for everyone. And I think this is something that the brand really needs to tackle in the next 12 months if they want to regain some of that free publicity. Now, third and finally, I think a lot of the old hardcore fans of Paula's Choice have started to come out and speak negatively about the brand and the direction that it's going in. I think this is the thing that's driven the biggest change, because honestly, these hardcore devotees are the ones that get lining the pockets of Unilever, buying the products time and time again. If they're kind of saying they're shifting away from the brand, this is where I would worry as a corporation that maybe my brand didn't have such a sustainable future. There's a couple of things that have really triggered this. First and foremost, eye cream. So people that have been following Paula from the start know she was never a big fan of eye creams. She said they were just glorified moisturisers. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there are some good eye creams out there that add more value than a standard moisturiser would. However, this was really Paula's ethos from the start. There was never an eye cream in their collection. Unilever took over, and then of course we have multiple different eye creams now, and people saying, really, this is a cash grab because it's not staying true to the original values. Also, you can look at mineral oil. So Paula called out a lot of brands for using mineral oil as a cheap and less effective alternative to some other ingredients, and said that she'd never formulate with that herself. Cut to now seeing a lot of the Paula's Choice products do actually come with mineral oil within them, which is again quite a significant shift. I personally don't mind mineral oil. I think it's demonised in a way it doesn't need to be, but if that's the founding principle of your brand, you kind of need to stick with it. Finally, it comes to the animal testing. I think a lot of people look at Unilever, which is not a cruelty-free conglomerate, and said, does this mean that Paula's Choice are now going to be testing on animals? Actually, as a brand, they don't, and Unilever have allowed to keep that cruelty-free status. But a lot of people weren't that happy, you know, lining the pockets of Unilever, a brand that does test on animals, by buying Paula's Choice products that's ultimately owned by Unilever. You know, personally, that isn't something that, as someone who likes to be cruelty-free in their skincare selections, wouldn't worry me in the same way that it would if Paula's Choice were actually directly testing on animals, but it's definitely a consideration that people need to make. Ultimately, it's been a pretty difficult 12-month period for Paula's Choice, and I can't really see how they're going to win this back in the long term. When a brand deviates so widely from their original core values, they then increase the prices, to a point where people think, is this actually worth it? This is obviously going to have a detrimental impact on sales. Because sales dip, so do profits, which means brands often put the price up further to maintain those profit margins, which again just creates that cycle where ultimately they become too expensive for people to actually reach for in their skincare routine. And I kind of think we're at that point with Paula's Choice now. If you do want to shop the brand, I'd say that their original products are still their best. They had some holy grails when Paula was there formulating and really involved in the process. Those products were A+. The recent launches, from that lip balm to the eye creams to some of the newer moisturizers, honestly, they just missed the mark hard, which is why I think there's been a slowdown in that free publicity from influencers, and people have kind of lost interest in the brand. What's your take and opinion on this, and do you think Paula's Choice has a future? I did hear rumours that Unilever were kind of looking to offload Paula's Choice. They paid allegedly $2 billion for this brand. If it's generating fewer and fewer sales, it's not going to be sustainable for them in the long term. That might not be the worst thing, actually, because if it became again an independent brand, they might be able to go back to some of their core ethics and values and really drive forward that consumer base. There are a lot of people that are really loyal to Paula's Choice, and I'm sure they would come back in a heartbeat if things returned to the way that they were before. I think they do need to go back to basics, look at what made this such a successful brand in the first place, reach out to content creators, sell the benefits of these products, and look at the price point and see what can be done to reduce that a little bit to appeal to a wider audience. That's just my thoughts, feelings, and opinions. I'm not involved in Paula's Choice or Unilever, so it's just there, but I would love to know what your thoughts are, so sound off in the comments section below. Wherever you are in the world, guys, stay safe, stay well, and love your skin. Take care. Bye.